What is going on, baseball and Mets fans, and welcome back to episode number 11 of the Stressing Mets podcast, postseason edition. And oh my God, is the only thing I really could say right now when asked about these New York Mets. Our New York Mets are going to the NLCS, the National League Championship Series, to fight for the National League pennant and hopefully the World Series title. The Mets coming up huge in numerous ways in both the NL Wildcard Series against the Brewers and the NLDS against the division rival Philadelphia Phillies. So let's stop wasting any more time and let's dive into all that we have. So diving into Game 1 of the NL Wildcard Series against the Brewers, it feels like it was a long time ago, but in reality, it was just about a week ago. And the New York Mets were fortunate enough to go into Milwaukee, and the most important thing that I like to say is win Game 1. A 3-game set, need to win 2, and that is what the Mets did. They won Game 1 by a final score of 8-4. Luis Severino going 6 innings, 8 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, 105 pitches. Definitely had some jits in the first inning. Had the jitters a little bit, started off a little slow, couldn't locate, was giving up a lot of soft and light contact. But really, as soon as he got out of that inning, going on from the second and, all the way to the sixth, he really was sharp. He really had his stuff together. He mixed up his pitches, his four-seam, his slider, changeup, curve, all of his secondary pitches, and he really toned in good to this Milwaukee Brewers team who is very sneaky on the bases. I'll give Severino that. He held runners on and, really was able to dial in after having a unlucky first inning, if you want to go with that. Jose Butto coming into relief, 2 innings, 3 strikeouts. He was dialed in. And then Ryan Stanek to finish it out in the ninth, going an inning, striking out 1. So the pitching really holding down the fort to this Milwaukee Brewers sneaky lineup. They did what needed to be done. The offense was able to capitalize back. Whenever the Brewers scored or got a hit, the Mets would respond the following inning. It was really just a wild ride, essentially. The Mets were getting hits. They were getting RBIs. They were advancing the runner. They were getting on base. They were just fundamental and productive baseball. You like what you saw from Mark Vientos. He had a phenomenal game, going 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. JD Martinez, who really needed some action, got 2 RBIs in. And overall, the Mets just needed to do what they did, and they did that in Game 1. Severino gets the dub. Going into Game 2, the next day, the Mets did not have the luck that they hoped for as they lost this game 5-3. Unfortunate fashion, definitely an unfortunate loss for the Mets. Sean Manaea went out there and, like I said, 5 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 4 strikeouts, 86 pitches. He looked good. Nice sweeping lefty. Manaea really did everything you asked him to do. A little bit of interesting bullpen management from Carlos Mendoza to pull him early. Most likely he didn't want him to go second time around the order is really what it seemed, especially against a sneaky Brewers lineup. But overall, Manaea looked great in my opinion. You look at the metrics, you look at the numbers, really pounded the strike zone, painted the corners, sinker, sweeper, changeup combination, the trio of pitches really worked out well. Also his four-seam, and he did throw in a cutter every now and then to really confuse this Milwaukee Brewers lineup, who really wasn't able to get a whole lot out of him. Garrett came in, obviously, for relief, an inning, a hit, strikeout. Ryan Stanek, an inning, clean. And then coming into the 8th inning, Phil Maton comes in, an inning, 4 hits, 3 runs, and he got lit up. He just could not get the job done, giving up tie-breaking home run in the 8th. Obviously, Chourio and Mitchell back-to-back. So, unfortunate. Phil Maton there, a dude who just did not have it. And he's arguably not had it this postseason, so it'll be curious to see what the Mets do with Phil Maton down the line. But, yeah, it's unfortunate. The Mets unfortunately blew this outing. The offense showed up a little bit. Brewers, a little bit of a pitching duel early on. Brewers bullpen came in early, and, they have a very sneaky, very dominant bullpen. But otherwise, the action was limited. Just Nimmo and Alvarez with RBI singles, and then Lindor at the sac fly. Otherwise, Mets lose this 5-3. And then going into Game 3 in the final game of this wild card series, win or go home. And that was the Mets' mentality there. One of the craziest games I think we've ever seen in Mets history and even postseason history. Jose Quintana comes in 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs, a walk, 5 strikeouts, 94 pitches. Tip of the cap to Quintana. He's a dude who really has found himself in the late half of the season and postseason. He had a phenomenal September, and his October has been phenomenal, as you could say, too. The lefty went out there and got the job, mixed his sinker, four-seam, and curve very, very well. Had, the velocity was there. Didn't really give up a whole lot of hard contact. Kept the ball on the ground, which was really good. Kept it in the infield, so that's what you'd like to see from Quintana. Quick outing, but unfortunately, Budo came into relief. It was a 0-0 game in the 7th inning. Budo goes a third. Gives up 2 hits and 2 back-to-back home runs to Bowers and Frelick. Just a dude didn't have it that day. Secondary pitches just couldn't connect, and 2 Brewers hitters in the lineup took it yard. And then Edwin Diaz came in for an inning and 2/3. Very underrated outing. Obviously, you need guys to keep you in the game. It was only a 2-0 game, like I said. And Diaz walked 2, struck out 3. And then to close it out, David Peterson in the bottom of the 9th, going an inning, giving up a hit and a strikeout. But let's talk about the offense. Mets offense was dead silent the first 8 innings. They were going into the 9th inning down 2-0. Francisco Lindor got on. Vientos struck out. Pete Alonzo coming up, as well as Brandon Nimmo got on base as well. Coming up, Pete Alonzo. Runners on the corners, 1 out. 2 outs away from potentially not being a Met anymore. 2 outs away from the season over. The Mets are going home. Pete Alonso has a lot of pressure. 1-2 count. Takes a pitch from Devin Williams and hits it opposite field to right center for a home run to give the Mets the lead 3-2. Alonso is hyped, and you really saw it to Pete this whole series against the Brewers. He didn't do much. You look at Alonso for majority of this season, and he came up short in majority of the opportunities he was given. And everyone said, is this the night? Is this the game where Pete Alonso shows his value? And it was. He hit a 3-run shot the other way. Everyone was going ballistic. And then cherry on top, Winker got on, and Marte drove him in, so you got an extra run out of that. And the Mets go on to win this game 4-2 to advance to the NLDS and eliminate the Brewers in the postseason. And really, you have to give a tip of the cap to Pete Alonso and the Mets and that 9th inning rally, especially Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo to get on in front of him. So, tip of the cap to this Mets team. They did the job. They fought. You looked at the Mets this whole season. They would always fail to get the big hit. They've always had complexities just getting the big hit, especially Alonso for arguably majority of his career. And he did the job. So, with that said, the New York Mets beat the Milwaukee Brewers 2 out of 3 in the NL Wild Card Series to advance to the NLDS to face the Philadelphia Phillies, a team that really had a phenomenal first half, slow in the second half, but still, arguably, to say the Mets were the underdogs going into this series once again. And you go into Game 1 in Philadelphia, a lot of pressure on this Mets team now that they are arguably deeper in the playoffs. Game 1, Kodai Senga returns. It was, rumored he would return for the playoffs, and he did. Obviously, he had a short leash, but like I said, the Mets won Game 1, 6-2. And my motto, just win Game 1. And that's what they did. Kodai Senga going 2 innings, giving up a hit, a run, a walk, 3 strikeouts, 31 pitches, 18 of those were in the strike zone. Really had a good outing, just, 1 pitch to Schwarber, left a little bit inside and took it deep. But otherwise, great outing from Senga. Peterson came in for relief, 3 innings, a hit, 3 walks, a strikeout. Tip of the cap to Peterson, phenomenal support there. Reed Garrett going 2 innings, strikeout. Phil Maton, an inning, 2 hits, 2 strikeouts. And then Ryan Stanek, 1 inning, a hit, a run, a walk, and a strikeout. And you have to look at this Mets lineup. They were really slow the first half, just could not hit Zach Wheeler, chasing outside of the strike zone left and right. Wheeler had 9 Ks on them, 1 hit through 7, 111 pitches. And then Mets were fortunate enough to get to their bullpen early on as they put up a 5-run 8th inning. Really had a very, very late rally. Clutch hitting from Vientos, Nimmo, Alonzo, JD, Marte, and Nimmo once again, they batted around the order. I want to say they got 5-6 straight hits. I mean, really beat up on that Phillies bullpen of Jeff Hoffman and Matthew Strahm, guys who are considered top-tier relievers. They're not a bunch of nobodies. The Mets feasted on them. And then the Mets go into the ninth, Nimmo with another run, and then the Mets go on to win this game 6-2. So really, you look at this Mets team and you start to say to yourself, they're really good at pulling off late rallies. You go into game 2, second game in Philly. The Mets unfortunately lost this game 7-6. It was a close game. How you lost, it's unfortunate, but I don't think Mets fans were upset with this loss to a drastic extent, considering how you almost came back. Severino had a solid outing, 6 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, no walks, 7 strikeouts, and 91 pitches. Like I said, going 2.5 times around the order. Looked good. Like I said, similar stuff to the Milwaukee Brewers series, minus the light contact. He kept the ball on the ground, which is ideal. You're coming into Jose Butto, 2/3 of an inning, a hit. Edwin Diaz, though, not got the job done. He unfortunately went 2/3, giving up 2 hits, 3 runs, a walk, and 2 strikeouts. And yeah, I mean, an unfortunate outing for Diaz, since pitch 1 looked really, really rocky, didn't look good. And he couldn't get the final out. Just could not get the final out. And that's kind of been the issue with this Mets pitching staff a lot this season, is they get 2 outs, and then they allow a walk, then a hit, which drives in a run, then a walk. They got to execute and get the 3rd out, and we didn't see it from Diaz this outing. Tyler McGill came in an inning and a third, a hit, and giving up the walk-off run. So, pitching, I mean, they looked good early on, but then coming, 3rd, 4th time around the order for the Phillies, they really were able to click. Mark Vientos breaking the game open, 2-run bomb. Alonzo opposite field bomb. Phillies came back. Then the Mets came back on top with a Nimmo home run. Then, like I said, Diaz couldn't get the job done in the bottom of the 8th. Was it too early for Carlos Mendoza to bring in Diaz? Some say yes, some say no. And then Vientos coming into the top of the 9th with 1 out, runner on, game-tying home run, 2-run bomb. And, I mean, tip of the cap to Vientos, had a phenomenal NLDS. We'll talk about him more. It's tied 6-6. You go to the bottom of the 9th, and unfortunately, Nick Castellanos walks it off. But I think most Mets fans were satisfied with, the outing at the end of the series. But it was an unfortunate loss, but you got over it, and you bounced back on it. As the Mets had a day off, they went back to Citi Field to try and finish things off. They had the mentality, win 2 at Citi Field, it's over. You split at Citi Field, you have to go back to Philly. And obviously, you don't want the Phillies to take 2 at home, and they did not do that. The Mets went on to win Game 3, the first game at Citi Field post-wild card since 2015. Mets go on to win Game 3, 7-2. Sean Manaea, phenomenal outing, tip of the cap to him, 7 innings, 3 hits, a run, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, 91 pitches. I mean, Manaea was absolutely dealing. Getting those swinging and misses, getting those ground balls to the left side. Had a couple balls hit to the warning track, but, it was able to stay in the ballpark. So, like I said, it's not the end of the world. But Manaea going out there and having a clutch, important outing for the Mets. Phil Maton came in 2/3 of an inning, giving up a hit, a run, a walk, a strikeout. Once again, another inadequate outing from Maton. And then Ryan Stanek came in for an inning and a third, giving up a hit and a strikeout to close it out. So pitching did their job, only giving up 2 hits and 5 hits, 2 runs against the Phillies. The offense did their job. Started off slow, but came a little bit alive towards the end. Alonzo and Winker bombs early on. Marte with some nice 2-out hits. Iglesias with a nice 2-out hit. Lindor with a nice double. So, the Mets offense went to capitalize. Aaron Nola, they got him out of the game early. Only 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs. I mean, he got the loss. The Mets have good numbers against Aaron Nola, career-wise. You look at guys like Alonzo, like Lindor, like Nimmo. They have good numbers against him. So the Mets were able to capitalize. Mets win this game 7-2. And they go in to the last game, game 4, needing one more win. One more win to advance, eliminate Philly. Or if the Phillies win, then they have to go to game 5 in Philadelphia. And the Mets don't want to do that. The Mets win game 4, end the series by a score of 4-1. Jose Quintana, 5 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. Phenomenal outing from Quintana. He was dialed in. Similar stuff that we saw from that Milwaukee series. He was able to get the job done. Short day's rest to go out there and throw 5 innings of quality baseball. It's phenomenal. Reed Garrett came in 2/3 of an inning. A walk, 2 strikeouts. David Peterson, who's really been the main man this postseason, 2 1/3, 2 hits, strikeout. And then Edwin Diaz to close it out. Looked a little rocky, but he got the job done. An inning, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, allowed the first 2 on, and then was able to get a strikeout, another strikeout, and a pop fly. So Mets pitching really held down the fort, limiting the Phillies offense to 1 run, 4 hits. Mets offense was abysmal. It was brutal to start off. First 5 innings, stranded way too many guys in scoring position. Going 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. Had runners on the corners, 1 out. Constantly get runners on first and second, no outs, and they just couldn't execute. They could not get the job done offensively. They were getting on base. I mean, they really worked Ranger Suarez. Suarez only goes 4 1/3, giving up 5 hits, 4 walks. I mean, they pushed him out of the game early, which was, what you wanted. And just the offense wasn't clicking until they go into the 6th inning. You get the bases loaded with 1 out. Francisco Lindor, and the MVP, comes up to bat, takes 2 pitches, and then immediately against Estevez hits a go-ahead grand slam to bring in 4 runs and the game-winning hit, essentially. And, you look at what everyone said post-game, Carlos Mendoza and David Stearns and Lindor and all the teammates. Francisco Lindor is the MVP. He came up big when they needed it most. And that one swing of the bat pretty much eliminated the Phillies and helped the Mets advance to the NLCS. So, you look at Lindor, he's a leader. And, when the Mets ended this game, when Edwin Diaz got the final out, the strikeout to Kyle Schwarber, Diaz didn't want to celebrate because we all know what happened when he celebrated last on the mound in Miami at the WBC. But they all went out to storm Francisco Lindor at shortstop, which I've never seen that before. That is a first. So it goes to show you, just put that C on Lindor right now. So tip of the cap to Lindor. Go-ahead grand slam to bring in 4 runs. So the Mets beat the Philadelphia Phillies in the NLDS 3-1 to advance. So now the New York Mets have the next challenge to face as they are going to the National League Championship Series for the first time since 2015. And they will be playing the Los Angeles Dodgers. And tip of the cap to the Dodgers, they were able to beat the Padres in a 5-game set in the NLDS. It was, it was a close battle, really came down to, the nail. But the Dodgers got the job done as the Dodgers will be playing the New York Mets in the best of 7. Got to win 4, of course. First 2 in LA, next 3 in New York, and the last 2, if necessary, in Los Angeles. So we're gonna have to wait and see. This is the Dodgers team that rotation's a little rocky, but has a very good bullpen. And if everyone meets to their expectations, they have an elite offense. But the question with the Dodgers is Mookie Betts going to show up? Is Freddie Freeman going to show up? Is Shohei Ohtani going to show up? We saw this NLDS. They didn't do that great. Struck out a lot. Combined, when I want to say an average for 5 for 50-something. All 3 combined batted below the Mendoza line. So, we're going to see. How are the Mets going to face those guys? How is their supporting cast? There are guys like Teoscar Hernandez, Kike Hernandez, Tommy Edman. How are they going to fare? So, overall, we're just going to have to wait and see. But it'll be exciting. Our New York Mets, 4 games away from the World Series. And 8 games away from a World Series title. So, we are going to have to wait and see. But otherwise, that is the end of this video. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. I know a little bit more of a longer stream than usual, but we have a lot of good stuff to talk about. As always, give this video a like, comment, subscribe, turn on those post notifications, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on the Mets so far this postseason, going into the NLCS? Who do you think is going to win? The Mets, the Dodgers? I'd like to hear. Till next time, baseball fans, see ya, and LFGM, as always.